Dr. Hart here with Microbalance Health. We're talking tonight about chronic pain and mold, guys. Okay, so we're getting all the devices set up. Thanks for bearing with us. And so let's get going here. Guys, if you got messages you want answered, you got questions, throw them in there. We got tons of people messaging in. So we are going to get that set up, get going here, and we're going to talk about chronic illness. We're going to talk about mold. We're going to answer the questions you got. If you sent them in ahead of time, we're going for it. If you're going to answer them right now, we're doing it. So we are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we are on YouTube. So let's do this here and make it happen. Guys, Microbalance is sponsoring this tonight, guys. Thank you so much for doing that. We love their products for mold, for detox, for using that whole front. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for being patient. And you know what? If you're dealing with chronic pain, I'm sorry, because it sucks. It really does. And if you break a leg, right? If you've got an injury, what are they doing when that happens? They are immediately looking for what is causing your chronic pain. They want to know. They're going like, hey, what is causing this pain? What's the problem here, right? And so we want to get you set up. We want to get you figured out what's causing it. So if they're looking at that, that's great, right? You're at the hospital taking x-rays. What if you've had pain for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years? Hey, good to see your Reem on Instagram there, right? What if you've had pain for a while? They stop looking for the root cause. They stop looking for what's really causing it. And so what we want to do is we want to say what's really underneath it. And one of those things is mold, and we're going to explain how, right? And you guys can check out the article I wrote regarding this on sinusitiswellness.com. It's Microbalance's informational site, so you can check that out there, right? But we want to understand what's really causing that chronic pain. And one big cause we see is mold. It causes chronic inflammatory response syndrome. It makes changes in the brain. And we want to figure out, why is mold causing that, right? So why is mold driving those pain signals? Well, the number one thing you need to understand about any pain, whether you broke your leg, you have a burn, or whether you've had pain for years, you need to understand that the big factor there is your brain. Without your brain, there is no pain. Always, every time, the only reason you feel pain is your brain, right? If you've got a cut, if you've got a burn, you do not feel pain there. You feel pain in your brain, right? There's different neurological signals that go from, for instance, the burn or the injury here, goes to your brain. Your brain makes a really complex decision, okay? It involves all sorts of stuff. It involves what is what's your blood sugar? What's your blood pressure? What's the rest of the inflammation load in the body? What's the toxin load? What's the infection load? Your brain has to make all these decisions with that. And then it says, ouch, does this hurt or not? We've all seen this, right? So you've cut your finger, you've done something while working, or you've got a sport, right? And you've rolled your ankle, but you keep going. Why? Because your brain isn't registering yet with everything else going on. A lot of times they'll say, it's adrenaline. That's great and all, okay? And adrenaline's part of the factor. There's so much else more, right? You're engaged, you got other things going on. And so in those moments, then it's not so much just about is the pain big enough here? It is the brain sending a pain signal to you, the consciousness who's watching it, right? And this is all neuroscience. This is all research backed, okay? So we got somebody saying, if mold is detoxing, something like lupus be reversed if caused by mold. We've seen all sorts of autoimmune conditions be reversed if the underlying cause is dealt with. And mold is a big one. We know for sure mold causes autoimmunity. We see in the research, right? And so if you deal with the underlying cause, then we can see lupus being reversed. We can see ANA patterns going to negative, right? So that's a biggie. Thank you, Dan. It's a great question. And so, okay, so there's no pain without the brain, right? Okay, so it's just the pain signals coming into the brain. It's not pain signals, excuse me, neurological signals coming, damage signals, all that coming into the brain, and the brain making a complex decision about, is this painful? And then it reports it back to you. Is there pain here, right? And so when that pain is present, then from the brain at that point, that's when we see it. Now, guess what? The brain's real smart. It is efficient. Okay. It's super, super efficient. And so in that front, when it's that efficient, it learns to say, I need less and less stimulus, less and less damage signals that come into the brain in order to create pain because it wants you to do something about it. Pain is just your brain's way of getting you to do something about the issue, right? And so it perpetuates. Now, why does that happen with pain? Why does that happen with mold? Okay, a couple reasons. Number one is inflammation. It causes brain inflammation. And Melina says, how can I address brain inflammation? Let's talk about that right now with pain, okay? Because mold drives brain inflammation. Those mycotoxins come in, we inhale them from our home. They're coming from our gut, our candida, all that stuff. But primarily, we're getting it from the home. And so we want to understand, why is that driving pain? Well, that brain inflammation makes our nervous system more sensitive. It makes it more reactive. So it takes less stimulus to create a pain signal in the brain. Partially that's due to like glutamate is one of the factors, right? Glutamate is excitotoxic. We need a little bit, wakes us up, makes our nerves fire. But things like MSG, all that, it drives that. But what else, right? So brain inflammation, what can you do for brain inflammation? Number one, reduce mold exposure, right? Treat the mold in your sinuses, treat the candida in your gut. And guys, I'm looking all over. I got Facebook over here, I got Instagram over here, I got YouTube here. So guys, I'm looking all over trying to hit everybody a little bit, right? So you can treat those factors, but you really got to get your environment right. If mold is a factor, which it often is in brain inflammation, we really, really got to deal with mold in your environment, right? So EC3 makes the test plates that we can test the environment. This is a patient of mine. This is actually from her nose, but you can test the environment with EC3 mold plates. Is your environment moldy? And if it is, there's things you can do about it. You can get a good remediation crew. You can start fogging with EC3 mold solution, right? With air purifiers, we can do the things, but you got to lower what's causing your brain inflammation, what's driving the pain. How else does mold do that? It lowers endorphins. Okay. So endorphins come pituitary, hypothalamus, right? They make us feel good, right? They help us relax. They lower pain. Well, mold and mycotoxins lower endorphin production in our brain, right? So what do I tell patients? Less joy, so you don't feel good, more pain, right? So we know, because how do opioids work? They partially opiate, like drug painkillers, painkilling drugs. They work by raising endorphins in the system, right? They work by stabilizing opiate receptors, which stabilize endorphins in the brain. Well, mycotoxins directly lower that, right? So we can get rid of the mold to increase our endorphins. That's one way. Neurofeedback does help to reset the brain with chronic pain loop, because again, it's a brain derived setup, right? So neurofeedback helps. One of our, and here at Keystone, we have 7 steps to mold recovery, right? The 6th step is brain retraining. Neurofeedback can be a great part of that, right? So it can help on that front, because pain always comes from the brain, guys. Always, always, always. And you need to hit this. I'm not saying you're making it up. It's not on your head, but it might be in your brain. Every single pain signal comes from your brain. Okay. So you need to know that. So neurofeedback is a great way to deal with pain. Okay. And so that's endorphins, low endorphins, neurotoxicity, brain inflammation is a big one. So we talked about glutamate. And so what happens with glutamate when it gets raised? So MSG raises glutamate in the brain. That's why it gives some people headaches. But mold raises glutamate. It makes it excitotoxic. That's why mold can cause seizures in some folks, right? But excitotoxicity is how pain works. When our brain is hyperexcited, it lights up, pain is caused. You're more, ooh, ow, that things are more tender, right? And so it ramps up our nerve cells. Nerve firing causes pain in that front. And so we have too much glutamate, we can get pain sensitivity, headaches, anxiety, panic attacks, muscle twitches, seizures. That's one of the ways. And guys, I'm going to answer questions as we're going. So I'm going to jump around. That's how my brain works anyways. I'm all over the place. And we just pull it all together, right? Get all over the place, pull it all together. So on Instagram, they're asking, how can a homeowner be confident that an HVAC system is cleaned out all the way of mold spores? Great, great question, okay? So one of the things I do, we take EC3 plates. I will tape it to vents in the house for an hour. I will stick it in the HVAC system with it running for an hour. I'll stick another one in the HVAC closet or wherever the HVAC's at for an hour. Let's see what's growing on these plates. Okay. If you have a good, there's a lot of things that make a good inspection company. They're going to do swab tests on all your HVAC vents. They're going to look inside your HVAC system. You need, basically what I'm saying is you need to test. You need to test, and don't just test a little, test a lot to make sure your HVAC's clean, because HVACs get nasty, right? We're in Tennessee. It's humid here. HVACs get gross. And so we need to make sure they're clean. And then she kept it off, can a homeowner be confident that all Morris Boots are HVAC cleaning service? You can be confident if you test and find out. Lots of services are great, but make sure you test to find out if it's actually clean afterwards, okay? And somebody else asked her, can memory problems be caused by mold? What can be done? I have detoxed and mold from mold-free home. Lene, I'm hoping you're seeing it right. Lene, number one, proud of you for moving to a mold-free home. Please make sure you know that because you tested. Always, you need to test everywhere you move to and live. Wherever you're spending significant time, test, right? Mold plates, EMA, ERMI, test. Okay. 100% mold toxins cause mycotoxins cause memory problems. They can cause mold-induced dementia. They're implicated. This research is coming out now. They're implicated in Alzheimer's for some folks because they are neurotoxic to the brain, right? They're directly neurotoxic to the brain. They slow it down. We see it on the VCS test. I see tons of mold-induced dementia cases. They think they're getting Alzheimer's. Really, it's mold-induced dementia. We get the mold right, it clears. So number one, make sure your environment is mold-free. Okay, if you're dealing with memory problems, dementia, all that stuff, and you think it might be mold, make sure your environment is mold-free. Okay, and number two, we got to start detoxing the body, right? We got to support the liver, we got to support the kidneys, the lymphatics, the drainage. There's good supplements there, right? So Microbalance makes a liver detox support. You can use glutathione as long as you don't have gliotoxin. You don't want to use glutathione with gliotoxin. Use NAC binders, fulvic acid, charcoal, microchitosan. All those are great binders. And then treat the sinuses. Okay, it's right next to the brain. And from the sinuses, if there's mold overgrowth, look, this plate, guys, is an EC3 plate. This is from my patient's nose, right, guys? This is growing in their nose. Okay, and so these mold spores are definitely producing mycotoxins. Where's it going? Right in the brain, right? Okay, so we got to treat the sinuses, nasal flushes, citrate drops, nasal spray, right? Nebulizing. We got to treat the sinuses. That's what we need to do for memory problems. And then we can support the brain directly if we need to. Skull cap, methylene blue, fish oil, all those good things, right? But first, get rid of the source. Okay, guys, we got lots and lots of great questions coming in. Lots and lots of great questions. Hey, Microbalance on Instagram. If you request to join, I will add you so we're on Instagram too. Okay. Sweet and Sassy says, had the home tested. I'll tell you, I'll just be real frank. I personally don't test any home testing unless I've looked at it myself. I just, like most people don't know when they do an air sampling, how does that work? A guy looks at a microscope, he takes the air sample, and he decides what's in it, right? And how's he feeling that day? Is he hungry? Not getting enough coffee? Did he stay up too late? Right? All those things impact it. So we want to make sure it's retested after. Using EC3 products to post-clean, beautiful. Fog, wipe everything down with EC3 mold solution, HEPA vacuum, everything. Walls, right? Do it. I've ordered the mold plates. I'm just waiting to arrive. Test everything with the mold plates. Tap test the walls, the furniture, the air, the HVAC. Tap test it all. I have patients buy 2-3 cases of the plates, and test everything, guys. Tap test. Okay, on there. So Chinese medicine herbs to remove mold from the body. Look, I'm trained in traditional Chinese medicine. Certain herbs are great for it, but you got to make sure you're following the principles, right? that you're getting the body to drain, kidneys, liver, right? Gallbladder in Chinese medicine, colon. Okay, some of the herbs are antifungal. So look, if you're following traditional Chinese medicine, you want the ones that remove damp heat. You want the ones that remove wind. Okay, that's biggie from traditional Chinese medicine. Is X Clear fine for sinus cleanse? It's great. X Clear is a great product. We rotate a lot with that. Citri drops, nasal flushing with the NasoPure unit with Citri drops in it. You got to do multiple. So you want to nebulize, you want a nasal spray, and you want a sinus rinse. Okay. Great questions, guys. Great questions. Um, there are multiple ways to test. Mold plates are the best way to get started in the screen. 100%, guys. Wow, man, we're getting a lot of questions. I love this. I know mold is hurting me. How do I find it? Okay, so for our patients, we've worked with Dr. Dennis and Catherine at EC3. We've helped come up with a very specific process. I'll give you that process right now. You guys ready? So this is the PDF I send to my patients. I'm going to give it to you right now. Get like 3 boxes of these, okay? So get 3 boxes of these E3 plates. What you're going to do, number one, you're going to take your family in the house. You're going to get some sterile nasal swabs. You're going to swab everybody's nose, okay? Paint it on the plate, okay? Close it up, seal it for a week. You're going to see what's growing in everybody's nose. Number 2, you're going to tape it to HVAC vents in the house, okay, for an hour, okay? You're going to do a couple plates on that. Number 3, pick your big rooms. Put it in the air for an hour. Let it sit out. Let it sit out for an hour. Then I want you to tap test furniture, carpets, rugs, clothes. Okay. Clothes. Oh my goodness. Clothes in closets. Man, it's cross-contaminating people's houses so bad. Okay. So what's this look like? You got clothes. You're going to open up the plate so that the goo on the inside is facing the clothes. You're going to tap test 5 to 10 times, just like this. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 to 10. You're going to do that on the carpet. You're going to do that. So 1 plate per area, right? Carpet, clothes, mattress, rug, furniture, upholstery furniture. Seal it up. Write it down, guys. Mark on here. Get your Sharpie, right? Get your Sharpie. Write on here where it's from. Seal it up for a week, 7 days. I want you guys to wait 7 days, okay? See what's growing in all those areas. That's going to tell you, okay? That's your best bet. That's how to figure out where is it at, what's going on. Test everywhere in your home. Attics, crawl spaces, rooms, every room, bathrooms. Test them all. Okay, Bill? That's how you do it. Kevin, thank you. That's a great point. What do you recommend to remediate constipation if a binder created constipation? Yeah, guys, binders bind everything, right? So they slow things down. Number 1, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. If you got mold, you know you're probably dehydrated anyways because it lowers ADH in the pituitary, which is what keeps your minerals going, which is what allows you to retain fluid. When that gets low, you just pee all the time. You're urinating all the time. You're thirsty, right? So stay hydrated. Get your electrolytes. I put electrolytes in all my water, right? Don't drink out of plastic and stay hydrated. Number 2, magnesium oxide. Great way to keep the bowels moving. If you really need it, coffee enemas, okay? That's a great way to do it. Okay. Thoughts on cholestyramine for ochratoxin A? Look, cholestyramine. So what's cholestyramine, guys? This is comes from the Sears community, chronic inflammatory response syndrome from mold. It's a medical way to bind toxins. It's a great toxin binder, okay? Very few of my patients can consistently tolerate it. It was based as a cholesterol medication. It binds to bile and cholesterol in the colon. Bile from our gallbladder and liver is where all the toxins get into our colon. Cholestyramine binds it, right? But it causes so much constipation and dehydration and gut issues for a lot of patients. So is cholestyramine a great binder? 100% it's a great binder if you can tolerate it. You just really, really, really have to stay hydrated, okay? So that's a great binder. Okay. So here's what I tell patients. I get the people that didn't work with the regular stuff, right? You did the protocols, you did things, it didn't work for them. You come to my clinic, you see me, you see my associate, Dr. Aoki, right? And so that's who works. So cholestyramine for a lot of my patients wasn't well tolerated. So we use other binders like Microbalance's bioactive binder, humic fulvic, lots of other things on that front, activated charcoal, right, that are better tolerated. Okay, so we're doing great, guys. Love this. So, okay. How else does this cause chronic pain, right? And guys, keep loading the questions in. I'm going to answer them. We're loving it. I'm just going to keep rolling. We're getting close to time, but if you're here, I'm here. We're going to roll with it, right? So it causes hormone dysfunction. We just talked about one hormone, antidiuretic hormone, ADH. It lowers that, but it lowers progesterone and testosterone. So in men and women, mold lowers progesterone and testosterone. What's that mean? It means less anti-inflammatory hormones, right? Testosterone and progesterone are so anti-inflammatory, okay? But when they get low because of mold, less anti-inflammatory compounds, more inflammation, more pain with the brain, right? Big, big, big factor, okay? What electrolyte brand do you recommend? Look, guys, really, the number one thing I recommend is kosher sea salt. That's the cleanest salt, or Himalayan sea salt if it's a clean brand, and cream of tartar. That gives you sodium, that gives you potassium. That's most of what you need, and plums of extra trace minerals. That's great, right? Now, the hard part about other electrolytes is, do they have maltodextrin? Do they have citric acid? Do they have stevia? Right? So I'm stevia sensitive, so I can't use a lot of electrolyte brands. So I do salt and cream of tartar. Okay, that's what I'm doing for electrolytes. Real simple, real cheap. Works great. My 13-year-old will tell you he hates the taste, but if he drinks it, he performs better at sports. So that's what it is. There's chronic exposure to Lyme and mold cause calcifications in the brain. Wow, great point. Great point. I'm not sure about Lyme causing calcification, okay? But mold really can disrupt like the pituitary and pineal gland to get calcified. They can cause mineral imbalances, like I just talked about with hydration, that can allow for that calcification. So can heavy metals, so can fluoride, right? So those can cause calcification in the pituitary and pineal gland. Great question there. So hormone dysfunction, right? With pain, the biggie here, and this is big with Lyme, guys. This is so big with Lyme. Mold causes elevated cytokines. Everybody knows that word now because of COVID, right? Those are the immune molecules that cause inflammation. And so mold triggers, here's what mold does. It triggers chronic inflammation, cytokines from the immune system, but it lowers our ability to fight immune infections, right? So it actually lowers our immunoglobulins, lowers our white blood cells, but raises the inflammation. So every time you get sick, when you have mold, you get more inflammation, less immune function. But what's that mean for pain? Cytokines, inflammation equal pain, right? The brain sees as a pain because it wants us to do something about it. How much salt and cream tartar? It depends on the person, but like a little pinch of each in every glass. So like this is probably in here like 2 pinches of cream of tartar and like a pinch of salt, right? That's plenty. That's plenty. But really, if you were to add a teaspoon of each per day with water, that's great. If you've got POTS, if you're peeing all the time, you got low blood pressure, you maybe need more, right? So those are biggies. Good reminder to stay hydrated as I'm talking so much. Okay, so elevated cytokines, chronic inflammation. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any questions. You guys, these are great. Great job asking questions. I love it. Enjoying chatting with you guys so much. Microbalance. How can men help balance their hormones after mold toxicity? You know what? This goes great. T-Duct asked, let me grab this one. T-Duct asked, so this is my shelf back here, guys, on my stuff. Is Celtropin effective? Right? So what do we know by the research? This is so catch-22. People who have high levels of testosterone are less affected by mold. But over time, mold lowers testosterone, you guys, right? So catch-22, okay? One of the things I love about Celtropin, it helps to restore pituitary balance, okay? After mold exposure, what does the pituitary control? Thyroid hormones, adrenal hormones, and sex hormones, right? So testosterone. So Celtropin is great. So many of my patients love it. Energy, low blood pressure, hormone regulation, right? So Celtropin's a great front, but men, you got to get out of mold exposure. Here's what I hear. I'm not affected by mold, and I'm being facetious on purpose, okay? I'm not affected by mold. You don't even know you're tired, you're overweight, you're brain fogged, right? You're puffy, you look terrible. Sorry, guys. Guys, come on. It's affecting your hormones. It's affecting you too, okay? So you need to get out of the mold, okay? You need to start resetting the hormone system with something like Celtropin. And for men, A lot of times I'll do high dose zinc for a little while to get testosterone on board. And then from there, we can do some other herbs for really toxicity. What else? You need to lower sources of soy in your diet, lower your carbs, get rid of alcohol, and quit drinking out of plastic, quit microwaving in plastic, quit eating in plastic, guys. Those alone will help really raise your testosterone. Okay, big, big, big. So yes, does Celtropin work? Yes, I see it on the labs. I see it in my patients. My patients love it because they feel the results. Okay, Celtropin works, helps to reset the pituitary gland. Okay, so guys, that's a biggie. How do I know if I'm stevia sensitive? Give it up for a while. Here's the big things I see with it: frequent urination, upset GI, high blood sugar, or insulin resistance. Those are the stevia things I see. Okay. Baja Gold, love Baja Gold, guys. Baja Gold is great. You got to figure out which ones. Some of their different versions are test iffy. Here's what's tested the cleanest: kosher sea salt. Kosher sea salt is what tests the cleanest. Okay. On Instagram, what do we got here? We got had chronic tick-borne illness and mold exposure. Now have low iron and ferritin, super low energy. What could help? Number one, I find if you have chronic tick-borne illnesses like Lyme, you need to check for mold because mold is suppressing your immune system, driving low immunity, driving infections like Lyme. And Lyme causes chronic pain for all the same reasons, but also Lyme arthritis, guys. Okay. Low iron, you got to look at it. It's as long as you're eating some meat, right? You should never have low iron, y'all, unless you're having bleeding, right? So unless you're having chronic bleeding and women menstruating. So look, oh my gosh, so we're gonna get really into it, right? Women who just gush blood when they're menstruating. Sorry for the graphic, but if they're just purging blood when they menstruate, they're gonna get anemic. Why do you purge blood when you menstruate? Because you're low in progesterone. Why are you low in progesterone? A lot of times it's mold toxicity, right? Can we see where this is not just low iron? You only should need 1 milligram of iron a day in your diet, right? That's how our human body is designed. It's beautiful, it works well. You should only need 1 milligram. If you have to take iron, there's another factor. There's probably low progesterone, right? That's a factor. There's maybe some infections. What I see really works well: vitamin A and copper to correct iron deficiency. There's a tidbit for you, okay? But you need to deal with the mold exposure. And if you don't know you're out until you test your home and test your work environment, test your school, and test your sinuses. Okay, that's biggie. So that's what I recommend there. If you got that low energy still, Celtropin helps with energy. I do see that, but really got to deal with the exposure and balance the hormones and adrenals. Okay. Do you recommend bioflavonoids at all for mold detox? I mean, there's so many factors, right? Bioflavonoids are essentially antioxidants. So I love antioxidants. Quercetin is great for the brain. Quercetin protects, it's a bioflavonoid, right? Protects the brain during mold toxicity. But mold ramps up histamine, allergies, mast cell flares, nosebleeds. Quercetin helps lower those factors. So bioflavonoid like quercetin, camu, aceola, right? All those things are great sources of bioflavonoids that really help. And then vitamin C helps neutralize the effects of mold, right? So bioflavonoids, love them, love them, love them during mold toxicity, right? Okay. Are cladosporium spores killed by EC3 products? Look, EC3 products with the citrus flavonoids and the enzyme factor, and you can use both, guys. I recommend you use both their enzymatic product and their mold solution, but cladosporium spores and mycotoxins are destroyed by them, okay? So it doesn't mean you can live in a nasty house, but it will help lower the load a lot. And cladosporium is in every home typically. So using EC3 products on the regular for your laundry, for your air is a big helpful. Okay, guys? So that's a biggie. Celtropin, where do you buy it? You can get off the Microbalance Health Products site. Okay, Melina, you can get Celtropin there. We carry it in our store, but you can get it straight from Microbalance Health Products. Kevin said Celtropin helps stimulate the pituitary. Oh, yeah, 100%, guys. Kevin's got some great info on there. He's with Microbalance. Great guy in there. So check out Kevin's notes on that front. Can a regular old Q-tip be used to swab the nasal patches for plate test? It can technically, but I would want it opened up from a new box. Okay. And you got to get kind of high in there. I'm going to do this for fun's sake. A patient told me it's hilarious. Let's just do it so you see what it looks like, okay? Because you can't use a short Q-tip swab. So it needs to be from a fresh box so you know it's sterile. Sterility is the key. So sinuses, you got sinuses in here, you got sinus in here, back in here, back in here, right? So you go up, woo, and you get the nasal cavity itself. And then you go deep and you get the deep nasal cavity straight back, right? So you go up and back. So as long as your Q-tip is that way, woo, okay, you'll get the stuff you need, okay? So get both sides, deep, swab it out real hard, okay? That's what you want on that front. I still cannot breathe and headache. Sinus is swollen. Nobody believes me. Danielle, I'm so sorry nobody believes you because we hear that all the time. Doctors don't believe them. Family doesn't believe them, right? This is real. This is 100% real, you guys. Every single time. It's not in your head, but it might be in your brain because mycotoxins get in your brain. They get in your sinuses, right? And so if you can't breathe, you need to figure out, are you living in mold? Okay? Are you living in mold? Use the plate test. Use the EMA test. Use the ERMI test. Are you living in mold? And then start dealing with it. And you have to treat the sinuses, you guys. We see people develop polyps, fungal balls, turbinate swelling. So turbinates are little things in your sinus swelling in there. I'll look in people's noses all the time, right? We see it all in there. You got to treat the sinuses. I'm sure you don't hear this enough, but you're the man, doctor. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. I do my best out here to help you all. Love it. Guys, we're going to keep going, right? As long as I get questions, I'm going to keep rolling. Okay, you guys can read more about this on the sinusitis wellness. I got my article up there about chronic pain. There's going to be a video posted on the YouTube page with me in the article. Okay, so Danielle, don't stop. That ionizer, 5 days, 24 hours a day, that ammonia and mold went airborne on steroids. Still can't breathe, panic like suffocating. Check your environment, Danielle. Please, please, please check your environment. So Carter Mack asked, do you suggest the ERMI or plate test for searching to move into a house? If you're going to plate test, you have to do it like I said in the video. You got to tap test. You got to test the HVAC. You got to test the carpet. You got to test the air, okay? So if you're going to test a new place to make sure, test all those things. If you want to, but sometimes people let you stand for an hour because you got to do an hour for the plate test. An ERMI test then would be my go-to, okay? So an ERMI test then would be my go-to. Red light nasal therapy, options for killing mold and sinuses. If you're going to do the red light, do it after you treat with like Citri drops or the Nasopure, something like that. Do it afterwards. And you can even nebulize with so red light and methylene blue activate each other. And so you can nebulize methylene blue and then do the V light in there afterwards, guys. Okay. Let me see. Do you still replay? Okay, I think I just asked that one, Carter. Thanks for asking that. Michelle says on Facebook, so is that why you swab in the brain? It doesn't get all the way up in the brain. Okay, it doesn't get all the way up there, I promise. But you want to see what's growing in your sinuses and nose because I want to see what's getting into the brain, okay? On that front. If you're not using a sterile swab, you are mold testing your Q-tip. That's 100% right. If it's not sterile and brand new, it's just what's on your mold tip. Thank you, guys. That's so good. How common is a movement disorder? Oh, my gosh, you guys. Movement disorders with mold. I'm talking like Parkinson's, Guillain-Barré, right? We're talking like anything from like muscle twitch, fasciculation syndromes, right? All those things, motor tics, right? Like all that stuff. And I do that because I get motor tics from too exposed, right? And so so much because the excitotoxicity, the neurotoxicity of the brain, mold and mycotoxins cause neuroinflammation in the brain. It's like 100%. I see it in Parkinson's, all that sort of stuff, guys. So movement disorders, yes, yes, yes. Okay. Dr. Hart, do you like herbs better than allopathic antifungals for treating mold, yeast, candida? I use we recommend both, but you can get so far with herbs for antifungals. Microchitosan, right, is a great natural antimicrobial. Oregano, great natural antimicrobial. Citra drops, great natural antimicrobial. Put it in your water, put it in your nasal spray, put it in your Nasopure, right? Great antimicrobial. So we use tons and tons of herbs in our office. Rosemary, marjoram, oregano, thyme, tea tree. Guys, these will get you so far, okay? We resort to antifungals prescription as a last step. I don't disharbor them. I have nothing against them, but let's go natural first, right? Okay, so how long does it typically take to eradicate mold from the body? Sweet and sassy, depends if you're out of mold. It's going to be hard to eradicate it from your body if you're living in mold, right? So deal with your environment too. But once you're out, give me 90 days to 6 months to get it cleared out of your system. That's what I say because it wants to survive there too, right? So that's a biggie. Um, I'm so sorry, Starlight Sky, that your arms and legs don't want to work. That's not uncommon. Okay, make sure you're out of mold. Make sure you're out of mold. Danielle asked if where am I located if we want an appointment. We are in Nashville. We're just south of Nashville. My associate and I were here. So we're at the office here, Columbia, Tennessee, which is just south of Nashville. We do some initial virtual appointments and then coming in person. We're here just south of Nashville. Vertigo, facial tics. Oh my gosh, yes, will it cause vertigo? So many patients get dizziness and vertigo or blacked out lightheadedness from mold exposure. Lots of good reasons for that, but yes, 100%. Facial tics, twitches, tremors, movements, all that stuff can happen. Guys, yes. Address, we are in Columbia, Tennessee. You can check us out at KeystoneTotalHealth.com, guys. If you're looking, so KeystoneTotalHealth.com. Some people do get surgery. We use Dr. Dennis, who's the founder of Microbalance Health Products, if they need sinus surgery. Guys, he's the only person I recommend. Okay, if you need sinus surgery, he's my go-to guy. Not everybody needs it, but if you need it, he's my go-to guy. Okay. Ambient background mower spores can be high outside, just part of the world. T-Duck, you are 100% right. Guys, I want to talk about this. Okay, T-Duck, I hope you're still on. I want to talk about this. Just because ambient spores are outside doesn't mean it's good for you. If you're mold sensitive, it doesn't mean you can handle it, right? And so what I see, so for instance, we had one patient recently, brand new home. The problem for her is that her mold spore count outside was astronomical. It was way above any sort of baseline. And then her HVAC system was sucking it in and recirculating it and making it worse, right? There is no mold issue in the home itself. The HVAC was sucking in the outdoor air and capitulating it through the house. It was the outdoor air that was making her sick because their area was too moldy. But guys, here's what's worse, okay? Your home can harbor water damaged molds. We're not designed to live in houses with HVACs, with air conditioners, with indoor plumbing, with energy efficient systems. The more energy efficient your home, the more likely for mold problems. And there's molds that produce more toxins than other molds, right? Aspergillus pedicloides, Chaetomium, right? Wallemia sebae, Stachyboides, those produce toxic molds that are not your common outdoor molds. So please don't fall for that myth that mold is everywhere. Guys, that's such BS, right? Is mold everywhere? Sure. Is toxic mold everywhere? No. Is high amounts of mold everywhere? No. Okay, so let's not fall for that myth. Okay. Okay. So, yes, yep, virtual appointments too, for sure, guys. Here's what I want to talk about real quick, guys, okay? Is mold part of the whole world? And we're going to wrap on this because I think we're getting all the questions. I think we answered them all. Let's look at mold from an existential, metaphorical, symbolic concept. Mold's job is to devour, decompose, and break down. So once it's in your house, it's going to break things down, right? It's going to break them down to their bare constituents. So when we're dealing with mold, I want you to ask yourself, what in your life needs to break down? What are you trying to hold on to that nature is breaking down and dissolving? What do you need to let go of? What are you holding on to? What aren't you ready to move past from? Because once you let it all break down, because when mold breaks things down in nature to its bare constituents, that's when it can flourish again. That's when it can nourish the earth and drive those nutrients back to create something new, guys. So if you're dealing with chronic pain and mold, I want you to ask, what are you holding on to you need to let go of so you can break down and grow something new? Sweet and sassy, insurance is a funny game on that front. They want to dictate what we can and can't do. They want to limit what is and isn't good for patients. I've played that game. I'll tell you, I won't play it again. Okay. So I'm sorry we don't take it, but you're welcome to submit your invoices to taxes, things like that, guys, but we don't play that game. Guys, Acentos, last question. I'm gonna wrap up this last question. If you want to sneak one more in, go ahead. questions on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Acintos is what I'm dealing with. What is acintos, guys? Acintos is a type of bacteria that comes with mold. I'll tell you, chasing acintos is secondary to chasing mold. Typically, if you've eradicated mold, you've eradicated acintos. If you've dealt with mold and you still have acintomyces, cyanobacter, any of those water-loving bacteria, algae in your home, you haven't dealt with mold, because it still means you didn't small particle clean. You're not on. You didn't remove the moisture or water damage, right? So if you're dealing with acintos, you're dealing with mold, and the process for treating it is the same, whether it's in the home or in the body. Okay, acintos is important to deal with, but it's the same. So if it's still lingering, you probably didn't really deal with mold. You can 100% test high in your body and not show symptoms. But I'll tell you, if you test high for mycotoxins in your body and you don't show symptoms, if you start treating it, you will see that actually you were worse than you thought. Okay. Do you recommend bipolar? If so, Francisco's asking if I recommend ionization, bipolar ionization, 100% in your HVAC, install an ionization unit. UV is okay in the HVAC. If you want to deal with mold, bipolar ionization in your HVAC. Phone number, clinic phone number. Let's see if I know this off my top of that. 615-223-5455. Okay. 615-223-5455 is our clinic phone number. Okay. Do you recommend bipolar air purifying? Yes, we love it, guys. We love that setup. It gets so you're basically outputting units in the air all the time that are dealing with mycotoxins and mold spores. Okay, and so oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. I wanted to double check that. So 615 is a different Nashville area code. 931. See, this is why I don't answer my own phones. 931-223-5455. 931-223-5455. Putting that in the chat here too. Okay. So yes, guys, you'll be surprised how often people do that and they go, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was having symptoms until I started treating it. Boom, there we go. Okay, guys, best nasal spray for ochratoxin A. Thank you, Lynn. Lynn, look, we use combo. We love Citri drops. We use silver with essential oils. Really, it's less about the ochratoxin A. It's more about the fungus at that point. You can put a small bit of binder in a nasal spray or nasal flush. Okay, a little bit of binder in there will bind up the mycotoxins. You guys, this was so much fun. Please share it. If you found it useful, check back in on the microbalance pages here for us, guys. I'm going to start shutting down. Y'all take care. I'll post up the phone number there, 931-223-5455. Bye, y'all.